Perfect, thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean and you're watching MLS Ireland does predictions for week 26 or 27 or 20. Perfect, thank you very much for joining me. Yes, and if you're new to this, hit that subscribe button. My name is Sean and you're watching MLS Ireland does predictions for, I think it is week 26, I'm not 100% sure. Last week was, well, during the week, 2 days ago, was week 26. Unless it was week 26, unless it's week 27, this one, I'm not 100% sure. I'll probably have to check. Yeah, they haven't really got any information at the moment, but it is a new week with 14 games to go through, and I'm tired of, I got football in a minute, so I need to get cracking through these. So the first one is LA Galaxy against Seattle Sounders. Now, LA Galaxy won last night, 2 nights ago, 14th, 2 nights ago, 5-2 against Vancouver, which was a pretty impressive result. 5-2, even though they got beaten 4-2 the week before by Sporting Kansas City. Got beaten by Dallas the week before that, beat Atlanta, got beaten by Colorado and San Jose before that. So coming into this, they've had a shocking record. Granted, Seattle's is not all that great either, and they've only won the 2 games in the last 6, and that was against Dallas and Colorado, and those 2 games were at home. So their last away game was a loss against Atlanta, a loss against LA, and a loss against Chicago. So, and they even got beat by Real Salt Lake there in the 15th, 2 days ago. Today's the 18th, I think so, maybe. The date's there. But anyway, yep, so LA Galaxy coming into this one on a bit of a good wee record. Seattle, a very good team. They are 19th, whereas LA Galaxy now are 12th. I think last week they were not too far off each other, to be fair. So I'm going to go for like a 1-1. I think LA Galaxy probably had their peak in that one. Again, this could go down to an LA Galaxy win 2-1, but I think a part of me is saying like a 1-1 draw in this one, so I'm going to go for a 1-1. Granted, Galaxy has a new player, and he's from Barcelona, so he's pretty good apparently. So yeah, you never know. The next one is New York Red Bulls against FC Cincinnati. Yes, Cincinnati are only 1-1 in the last 6, and that was a 3-1 win against Philadelphia. Pretty good result, if I don't say so myself. That was on the 6th, a week and a half ago. So that was a good game. They're coming up against a Red Bulls team who won last night against Atlanta 2-1. A very good result for them, and now we're away from home. Granted, their last 3 away games, their last 3 home games they lost. Not great. Whereas Cincinnati hasn't really won a game in the last 4 away from home. So saying that, I think Red Bulls should get a good result in this one. I'm gonna go for like a 2-1 win. I know their home record isn't great, but they're a better team. I know I think Cincinnati are a very good team, but I think Red Bulls are probably a bit more organised. So I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win in that one. The next one is Montreal against New England Revolution. Montreal drew their last 2 home games. Montreal drew their last 2 home games, whereas New England Revolution drew 2 out of the 3 and won 1. So out of their last 3, so that's pretty good. Granted, Montreal are at home and they're not too bad. They're 4 for a reason, haven't lost a game in the last 6, which is pretty impressive. Their last 2 home games were actually draws against New York and Inter. So coming up against the New England Revolution team, who are starting to get going again. They only lost 1 in the last 6, and that was against Philadelphia, but that was about a month ago. So saying that, I'm going to go for like a 1-0 win to Montreal. Montreal are a very surprising team. They were like Real Salt Lake of last year, like Colorado of last year, if you know what I mean. They just basically worked their way up the league where everybody else kept beating each other, and they kind of kept steady going up. So I'm going to stick for the 1-0. Sorry. And the next one is DC United against Philadelphia. Philadelphia now lost a lot of games now. The last 2 away games they lost, that was against Cincinnati, which they shouldn't have done, really, to be fair. And they got beat by Dallas. Yeah, a couple of hours ago. Not a couple of hours ago. 10 hours ago. Yeah, I'll go with 12 hours ago. So that's not a great result for them. DC United, again, new manager, new bounce. Didn't really see it. It was just against Orlando, really, and then they haven't really won a game since. So they're coming up against a very good Philadelphia team. I'm going to predict 2-1 to Philadelphia. Just they are a better team. DC United aren't. Their defense is just dreadful. So yeah, I'm going to go for like a 1-2 to Philadelphia. The next one is Inter against Toronto. Toronto now, since they got their good players, they haven't lost a game. The last loss was against Montreal, and they've only drew the 2. That was one was against New England last night, or 2 nights ago. Yeah, last night, 2 nights ago. And to be fair, they drew their last game against New England as well. So they're coming up against an Inter team who's lost only the one in the last 6, and that was against New York City FC. And then they beat New York City FC 3-2. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to Toronto. They have the better players. Inter Miami, I know at home, should probably give a good result. That's when hence why I haven't given them the 1 goal. But I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win to Toronto. Insigne probably with another goal. So you heard it here first, folks. The next one is Minnesota against Austin, who are still second or third. Pretty good. And they're top or second in the Western. Pretty good results for them. Dallas is third, which is pretty interesting when you think it, because they're 6th overall. But anyway, Minnesota, who are 8th overall, we're actually slowly moving up the table. Beat Nashville, got beaten by Colorado, granted, and drew with Portland in the last 3 games. So they're going up against an Austin team who are, I'm not going to say fairly flying, because they did start the season off quite well. But their last away game was a 2-0 win against Sporting Kansas City. So I'm going to go for like a 1-0. I just think Minnesota are kind of like a sleeping giant. They probably can grind out games and they can score goals. And probably keeping a clean sheet is probably going to be problematic for them, whereas Austin are similar. So I'm going to go for like a 1-0. The next one is Colorado Rapids against Houston Dynamo. Interesting. Colorado Rapids lost their last game against Vancouver last night. And that was like a 2-1 win to Vancouver. Their last away game was a draw against Columbus Crew, and the one before that was a 4-3 win in Minnesota. So they're coming up against the Houston Dynamo, who are 25th, who have lost. Only won the 1 game in the last 6, and that was against against San Jose Earthquakes. Got beaten by Austin, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Vancouver, and Montreal. Now they're coming up against a Colorado Rapids team. So I'm going to go for like a 2-0 win. And Colorado are better than Houston, quite frankly. The next one is Real Salt Lake against Vancouver. Vancouver, who keeps surprising me every time, because I always keep saying that they're going to lose and then they win. So keep that in mind. They come up against a Real Salt Lake team. I always say they're going to win and then they lose. So keep that in mind. They are 9th in the league. They beat Seattle, which, they got beaten by LAFC. Okay. The last home game that they won was against Sporting Kansas City, and that was last month. So they're coming up against a Vancouver team who can, as to the LA Galaxy, they can spring a surprise in anyone. So I'm going to go for like a 1-1. 2 teams are probably well matched. I know Real Salt Lake are a lot more above in the table, but I think this is going to be one game where Vancouver probably surprises quite a few. I'm going to go for like a 1-1. The next one is San Jose Earthquakes against Los Angeles Football Club. LAFC are top. If they win this game, I think, LAFC can clinch the berth in the playoffs if Dallas lose and Philadelphia lose versus Philadelphia and Colorado lose or tied against Vancouver. So they're forgotten, basically. I don't even think they really needed to put that in, but oops, a lot of noise. But they're already in. So coming up against the San Jose Earthquakes team, who are probably not, we haven't won a game in the last 6, not good. So I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win to LAFC, just because they are a better team, quite frankly. And not 100% sure what's happening to Gareth Bale, but I think he may be back into this one. So I'm going to stick with a 2-1, and he's probably not going to be starting, so, which is unfortunate. Next one is Columbus Crew against Atlanta. Atlanta now, like I said, lost their last game against New York Red Bulls. Their last win at home was against Seattle, but they drew against Cincinnati in their last away game. So And then the last one before that was Chicago Fire, and that was a draw, and then the one before that was an LA Galaxy 2-0 defeat. And they're coming up against a Columbus Crew team who are surprisingly 10th in the league. Only lost one against Montreal, drew quite a few, and 1-2 against Cincinnati and New York City FC. So they're coming into this one with probably a bit better form. I originally had 2-2, but I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. I think Columbus Crew are a far better team than Atlanta currently at this moment in form, and I think Atlanta desperately need Joseph Martinez to start playing better, because he hasn't really done much. The next one is Chicago Fire against New York City FC. Chicago is rising to quite a few at the moment. Granted, they did lose their last game against Philadelphia, but that, come on, Philadelphia are pretty good. But they beat Charlotte, beat Vancouver, beat Seattle, beat Toronto. And they drew against Atlanta. So they're coming against the New York City FC team who lost last night, quite annoyingly, because they lost the last 3, which is really weird. So they got beaten by Charlotte 3-1. Charlotte second win away from home, which is pretty impressive. To New York City to get losing on that one. Against Inter Miami 3-2, and against Columbus Crew 3-2. So panic stations, maybe, I don't know. I went for a 2-1 win to Chicago Fire because they're actually not a bad wee team, and I do think they're probably going to get a good result in this one. I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win in that one. The next one is Charlotte against Orlando, because Charlotte done very well, beating New York City FC away from home. Their home record is pretty amazing. So they're coming up against a Orlando team who are wherever the hell they are. Orlando 16th, and they won against New York Red Bulls during the weekend. So I'm going to go for like a 2-0 win to Charlotte. They're very good at home, and I know Orlando won away from home against New York Red Bulls, but New York Red Bulls are all over the place at the moment. So I'm going to stick with my 2-0. The next one is Sporting Kansas City against Portland. Sporting Kansas City beat LA Galaxy in their last away game. Got beaten by beat by Austin 4-3 in their last game. So they're coming up against a interesting Portland team who've only won 1 in the last 6. That was great against San Jose Earthquakes. Got beaten by Toronto there at the weekend. So I'm going to go for an interesting 1-0 win to Sporting Kansas City. I know they are at home, and I do think this is probably a wee bit late for them really to be trying it, but I think this is probably where they're going to try pick up a bit of form and try to see if they can make it into the playoffs. I know they won't, but they're 27th, and LA Galaxy are 10 points ahead of them in 12th. Anything can happen. And the last one is Nashville against FC Dallas. Dallas, who are 6th, only lost to 1 in the last 6. That was against Seattle. Drew against Portland. Beat San Jose Earthquakes. Beat Philadelphia. Beat Galaxy. And beat Real Salt Lake. Not too bad. Nashville, on the other hand, haven't won a game in the last 6. Not good. They are at home, and they're coming up against not too bad Dallas. So I'm going to go for like a 1-0. Dallas probably should possibly win this one, to be fair, but I think Nashville at home, they're not too bad. They have drew quite a few games, so I'm going to go for like a 1-0. So yeah, those were my predictions. I know this one was a pretty quick one, but I need to get going. So I'll chat to you in the next one. Bye now. Go away. Bye.